Welcome to the world united. Welcome to the world united.
SANDEEP Pandey, an alumnus of the Indian Institute of Technology, Varanasi. Thereafter, he did his master's in manufacturing and computer science from Syracuse University, followed by doctorate in control theory at the University of California, Berkeley, which he completed in 1992. After completing his education, he moved back to India and started teaching at the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur in 1992. Later, he founded a registered organization named Asha Trust, which has several centers, chapters across India. His team has launched a people's group named Asha Parivar in 2008 that focuses on strengthening democracy at the grassroots. Sandeep Pandey's work at Asha Parivar is focused on right to information and other forms of citizen participation in removing corruption and improving the efficiency of governance. He leads National Alliance of People's Movements, the largest network of grassroots people's movement in India. He was awarded the Raman Magsaysay Award in 2002 for the Emergent Leadership category. Pandeyji led an Indo-Asian peace march from New Delhi to Multan in 2005. He has served as an advisor to the Indian government's Central Advisory Board for Education. His idea of education is based on empowerment by imbibing the spirit of cooperation instead of competition. Currently, he is working as a visiting professor in the Mechanical Engineering Department at Indian Institute of Technology, Gandhinagar. The topic of his presentation today is uploading ethics, morality in public life. So, your stage is yours, sir, and we all welcome you here.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So, Jyoti ji, I have about what, 20 minutes to speak, or how much time?
You may, sir. 20 is fine.
Okay, because I thought that there were three speakers, so you would probably divide the time that way.
No, no, we've got time, enough time, right?
Oh,
You please.
acha, okay, okay. So, thank you, Dr. Yugandhar and Jyoti ji, for giving me an opportunity to speak in this session. So, at the outset, let me state uh, very clearly that I am an atheist. So, an atheist possibly cannot have anything to do with his spirituality. But as my topic says, I have used moral values, as the basis of my work. And for me, I mean, if you want to call it, for me, that is spirituality. I don't believe in God, but I believe in human beings. So for me, my God lives in every human being, you know, uh, and the nature, of course, because these days you cannot talk about human beings without nature. So I will just give you an idea of how, we have upheld moral values and ethics in public life to the advantage of the common people. And so for a lot of these, who people who call themselves spiritual or religious, their inner strength comes from some belief in God. And where does our belief come from? The strength to carry on our work is from the trust and the belief in our fellow human beings. So we work with people, and people are the one who give us courage to go on. So I will give you three or four examples of how we have successfully used our moral and ethical standing to achieve the purpose of our work. So as you mentioned, I am part of an anti-corruption campaign in the area in and around Lucknow. And once we were conducting a social audit of uh, NREGS, so that is National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, and the act itself provides for people to carry out social audit. This is a very unique provision because normally any kind of audit is carried out by some authority, the comptroller and auditor general, or somebody like that. But this act, which offers employment to people in rural areas, says that people themselves can audit the implementation of the program. So we have done this in 5 different blocks of Hardoi and Unnao districts around Lucknow. And our toughest exercise was in a block called Miaganj of Unnao, which is about 50 kilometers outside Lucknow. And it was an exercise to be carried out over 1 week, because there are about 50 to 60 villages in each block. Block is an administrative unit below the tehsil level. Tehsil is an administrative unit below the district level. So you have district, you have tehsil, and then you have block. Every block has about 50 to 60 gram panchayats. So the idea was to go into each gram panchayat, which with the documents related to NREGS work, which we had obtained under Right to Information Act. And we wanted to read out the documents and to ask people whether what was mentioned there regarding the work, regarding the expenditure, was correct or was it fake. So this is the exercise we carried out. There were 10 teams, um, each consisting of 10 people. So there were about 100 people on the move. I was stationed at the block office itself with running a temporary office from a hall, and my colleagues were moving around in the villages. And it so happened that all the powerful vested interest people got together, and they said that if these people will come into our villages, then we will use our guns. And my colleagues got frightened. Everybody came back to the block in the middle of the audit, and then we had to take a decision what to do. So I said, if the gram pradhans, the village heads, and others vested interests will not allow us to conduct this audit, which is a legal right of the people, then we will fast. 100 people who were going to carry out the audit will fast at the block. And the block development officer got jittery. He organized a meeting with all the gram pradhans, and in that meeting, for about, which went on for 2 to 2.5 hours, I explained the purpose of the audit. I said it is not against you, it is against corruption. And if corruption can be removed, then the benefit of the government schemes will reach the people. That is the purpose. So after 2 hours, the same people who were opposing us, they started complaining to us that how can we do our work? We have to give 7% to the engineer, we have to give 7% commission to the block development officer, so all that. So I said, okay, we understand your point of view, and when the audit is done, in the final meeting, when senior officials will be present, the district magistrate, the commissioner of the rural development department, then you can present your point of view. So this way, through a dialogue, we were able to resolve the crisis and handle the threat that was being issued to us. And finally, the audit was done. And when the final presentations were being made, then we had people, common people, we had panchayat elected officials, we had the government officials, the IAS officers, and everybody was able to say everything freely that they wanted to say. That was the first example. Second is, in this politics of communalism where violence is often used, there was a time when these tridents, trishuls, were being distributed to people, and there was a program in Sultanpur, a district in Uttar Pradesh, where Mr. Ashok Singhal, the president of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, was to come and distribute tridents. My friend Sanjay Singh, who is now a member of parliament for the Aam Aadmi Party, he decided to set up a parallel program. He comes from Sultanpur. And he said that we will distribute Bhagavad Gita. And I was made the chief guest for this. Now, I told him that, you should have consulted me. I am an atheist and you are asking me to distribute Bhagavad Gita. But I thought the idea was very nice. I went there and I publicly said that I am an atheist, but I am distributing it because I want the common people to take the side of truth in this battle against communalism. So just like Krishna took the side of truth in Mahabharata, so you decide who's right. You decide whether the trident or whether a Bhagavad Gita is a better symbol of your religion. And then you support whoever you want to support. So in our program, there were 8 times more people than who turned up to receive tridents. There were Muslims in the audience in our program, and even on the stage. And our program represented communal harmony, was very successful, and we declared from that forum that everywhere where trident will be distributed, we will be setting up a parallel stage to distribute Bhagavad Gita. And from that day onwards, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad stopped distributing tridents among people. Third is a march that we took out for nuclear disarmament in 1999, 1 year after the nuclear test was conducted in Pokhran. And we started from the village Khetolai, which was the closest human habitation to where the test was performed. The objective of the march was global nuclear disarmament. It was being taken out from Pokhran in Rajasthan to Sarnath in Uttar Pradesh. Pokhran was a symbol of destruction because nuclear test had been carried out there to make nuclear weapon. And Sarnath was a symbol of peace because Gautam Buddha had given his first sermon after attaining enlightenment in Bodh Gaya in Bihar. And that is where he made his first 5 disciples. So we started from Khetolai. We were stopped in Pokhran, which is a small town, and by supporters of the nuclear weapons. At that time, the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government was in power, and we were called all kinds of names. We were called agents of Congress Party, agents of Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was the president of United States at that time, and we were not allowed to proceed. But if you see the video in the clip of this event in the documentary called War and Peace by Anand Patwardhan, they were raising slogans and we were singing song. We were singing the song, Tum mujhko vishwas do, main tumko vishwas do. You give us trust, we will give you trust. And we kept singing this song, we kept proceeding. The police kept pushing the people back. The administration told us that why don't you change your route? We said, why should we change? Our route has been declared in advance. You ask the protesters to protest in a different manner so that our peace march can go on. We will not stop our peace march. So we kept singing song, they kept shouting slogans, and ultimately the police pushed the protesters back, and we were able to move ahead on day 1. On day 2, in a religious place called Ramdevra. Ramdevra is a local deity in Rajasthan. Stones were thrown at us. 2 of our colleagues got injured, but still we were not deterred. We kept proceeding, and on the 4th day we were stopped at a bigger place called Falodi, where the traders blocked the road. They sat on the road. They said they would not let us proceed. So we also sat there, and we said we are ready to have a dialogue. Here is our sound system. You use our microphone. You ask us questions and we will respond. So these traders who were supporters of the Bharatiya Janata Party, they said, no, we will not engage with you in dialogue because we know that you are very smart people. You will be able to answer all our questions, but we are not going to let you go ahead. So we said, okay, we will also sit here until you let us go ahead. So for the entire day, the dharna went on. They were sitting on one side, we were sitting on one other side of the main road. And finally, when the subdivisional magistrate realized that we were not going to relent, then he finally threatened the local traders by some action, because of which they vacated the road, and then the march went ahead. So after 3 days of obstruction in the beginning, the 88 days march, over 1,500 kilometers, was completed successfully, and 17,000 signatures collected on the way were presented to most of the nuclear weapon possessing nations, and that was, some success. But in the same march, one question was being asked to us, that you can do this in India because India is a democratic country, but can you do this in Pakistan, which is an authoritarian state? And that time I thought that because India's nuclear weapon was made for Pakistan, and then Pakistan made nuclear weapon for India, it has to be a joint campaign for disarmament in this part of the world. So at that time, I decided that someday I will take out a peace march to Pakistan also. And finally, it materialized in 2005, when we marched from the Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia's Dargah in Delhi to the Mazar of Bahauddin Zakaria in Multan. We were allowed to march in India. The 9 Pakistani friends joined us. When we were in the last district, they did not get the visas in time and the permission from the Pakistani government to cross over. Finally, we were not allowed to go to Pakistan, even though I had gone and met the Pakistani Prime Minister, Mr. Shaukat Aziz, handed him over a list of 110 Indians who would come to march. But they ultimately allowed us only to go on vehicles, not walking. So 2 incidents related to this I have to narrate before I close. We had 3 demands. Number 1 demand was that India and Pakistan should resolve all their disputes bilaterally with dialogue. Number 2, that they should reduce their defense budgets. They should give up their nuclear weapons altogether, which is a very dangerous weapon, as we have seen in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It must not be used anywhere in the world. And reduce their defense budget so that valuable resources can be spent on the development of poor people on both sides. Number three was to do away with the passport visa system so that people can cross over the border freely. And we were walking, and one Sardarji on his bicycle came from behind in Jalandhar. He stopped us and he asked me whether I was the coordinator of the march. I said yes. I thought he was going to offer us food or tea in the Gurdwara. He said, your order of demands is incorrect. If you keep the demand number 3 as demand number 1, which is to do away with the passport visa system and allow people to cross the border freely, then your other 2 demands will also be met easily. And I was amazed. Here was a Kirtan singer in Gurdwara telling me, who holds a PhD, that the way the solution was conceived was incorrect, and I was immensely thankful to him for having educated me about this. Then when we reached Multan, we were received by Mr. Shah Mahmood Qureshi, who is the present foreign minister of Pakistan. At that time, he was not in politics. He was just the head of the Dargah in Multan. And normally when you go to Pakistan, people will tell you that don't talk about India and Pakistan becoming one again, because Pakistan's identity is based on division. So as soon as you talk about the 2 countries becoming one, it appears as if India is trying to co-opt Pakistan. So we are advised that we can say anything about peace and friendship, but except for that, India and Pakistan should become one again. But when our march ended in Multan and Mr. Qureshi was our host, the final prayer in the Dargah was begun by the person who used to read the dua every day. He started in the name of Islam and Pakistan. So Mr. Qureshi stopped him. He said, today I will read the dua. And he said, in the name of peace between India and Pakistan, he read out the dua. And then in a public meeting, he was so moved by the whole atmosphere that he said, there will be one day when, like the two Germanys have become one, India and Pakistan will become one. So normally something which is not said in Pakistan was said by Mr. Shah Mahmud Qureshi that day in a public event, and we were very thankful to him for this. So we have seen that if you take the right stand, if you take the moral stand, the ethical stand, then finally people do come around and support you. It is not so difficult even in today's world, when there is so much politics of hatred, there is so much corruption, and the overall atmosphere is not very conducive for positive work, for spreading the message of harmony and love. Even in this atmosphere, it is possible to work and to convince people of your point of view if you hold a moral and ethical position. So that is where I will end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really enlightening, talk by you. In fact, if you call yourself atheist, I could never find anything. I mean, why should you call yourself an atheist? Spirituality relates to one's inner moral centered life. So the same life you are leading, it requires courage, it requires love, and this is what you're giving. So how are you different from, you said in the big, I caught this actually when you said that I'm an atheist and why I'm here. So I think that there is nothing being, I mean, like spiritual, there is nothing like atheist. It is only occurs when there is a dualistic thinking, and this dualistic thinking, in fact, makes us see worlds apart in two different arenas. As it is not there. As you talked of Bhagavad Gita, in fact, is a book which even the management people are using these days.
Yeah,
They're using it
yeah,
because it's actually teaching you the way of life, and this is what you are doing, nothing different. So we are really honored to have you here, and
thank you.
thank you so much. I'll be, yes, sir, in case, Dr. Yugandhar,
Yeah, I think we will move on to next speaker and followed by discussion with Sandeep ji for some time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sometime later on. Okay, sir.
please state
So,
yourself.
Sandeep ji, here is a small
oh,
token from the World United. It's a certificate of appreciation. The World
thank you.
United proudly presents Sandeep Pandey ji for being an esteemed presenter in the third edition of the World Parliament on Spirituality 2020. So thank you
Thank you.
again so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Will I get a soft copy of this? It will be mailed to
Uh,
me, right?
Yes, we will mail you, sir,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
great
Thank
honor.
you.
Great